Mr. and Mrs. North, starring Barbara Britton and Richard Denning.
As you can see, Mr. Denker, it was made in Switzerland. And that's where they said I have to send it to have it repaired. But you see, if I do that, I won't have time to send it to California in time for my niece's birthday.
And that would be a calamity if your niece is anything like my grandchildren. She just refuses to say mama, eh? Well, I think we can restore speech to this charming creature as rapidly as the Lord did for Lazarus.
That's wonderful, Mr. Denker. Do you suppose by tomorrow or the next day?
I suppose in a few minutes, if you have the time.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Denker. We have all the time in the world.
Oh, darling, we're never going to make that fight. We'd be lucky if we can even get a cab. Now, why don't you pick the doll up tomorrow, huh?
After searching half of New York to find a place like this and a man as nice as Mr. Denker, why don't you go on, dear? I don't like price lights anyway.
Fifi.
That's right, Mr. Denker. Fifi, the lawfully wedded wife of Lorenzo Lemaire.
I told you before, I do not know the whereabouts of your husband, Mrs. Lemaire.
Listen, if Larry Meek gets here before Lorenzo, he'll get that doll for himself. And remember, Meek can get rough.
Please go. I don't frighten easily.
If Larry gets that doll, you'll never handle another job for us or anyone. So get it.
That awful woman. Why, she even frightened my little doll. I'm sorry to impose such a sordid fragment of human comedy upon two such charming people. Shall I wrap your doll for you, ma'am? Oh, no, I see you. Oh, her box she came in, eh?
Thank you, Mr. Denker. Now, how much do we owe you?
Oh, there's no charge. You did mention your address.
Oh, well, no, and we're Mr. and Mrs. North.
Oh, is that your name? Mr. and Mrs. North, eh?
And we're very appreciative. We'll find a way to prove it, too, Mr. Denker. Good night.
Good night, Mr. Denker.
Oh, Mrs. North.
Yes?
It's so seldom we of the doll world find hearts of flesh and blood. This is my Bernice, whom I truly love. Mrs. North, don't you think she's exceptionally lovely?
Indeed I do, Mr. Denker.
I made her with my own hands. Will you accept her as a gift?
Well, wonderful, Mr. Denker. Why should you give me such a lovely gift?
May I call it just an old man's whim? Will you write your address, please? I always like to know the whereabouts of the dolls I've made. Those I love.
I'll give you the phone number, too. Isn't Bernie's darling, Jerry? Don't you just love her?
Yes, dear, but at the sound of the gong, it will be exactly...
All right, Jerry, we're on our way. Good night, Mr. Denker.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. You may come down now, Lorenzo. Yes, your wife was here. Eh? As usual, disagreeable. Says she has her own way of handling our problem. Huh. Patsy! Patsy!
That awful woman bothering that nice old man.
Patsy! Patsy!
As if he didn't have enough trouble eking out a living with this poor little doll. You seldom find a man like Mr. Denker these days, Jerry.
Patsy! Patsy!
Jerry, that man. We saw his picture in the paper this morning.
Okay, dear, you were the winner. My second's throw in the towel. What man, dearest?
He was mixed up in something. Why would he be going into the dollhouse? house?
I don't know. Why did I ever go into it? With 2 first-class tickets for the big fight and then the last preliminary just about over.
Taxi, mister?
My dear fellow, whatever gave you such a ridiculous idea?
Oh, fresh guy, huh? You know, for 2 cents, I'd punch you right in the nose.
Well, climb right out, brother. I'll pay you cash on the line.
Now be quiet, both of you. Get in and go to your prize fight, Jerry. Start your meter, driver.
Oh, now, hold on, Pam.
Dearest, you still have time to take someone with you who really likes the fights. I have some shopping to do, and I'll go home right afterwards. And by the time the fights are over, I'll have some Welsh rarebit all ready for you and your guest. Doesn't that sound good?
Well, of course, dear, but
It's only a 2-minute walk to the apartment. Good night, sweetie. I don't know why I love you so much.
I don't know why you do either. Good night, lady. Okay, Mac.
What's he to you?
I don't get it.
Get what?
Pam. Why did she want to go home? You know as well as I do, that's the last thing in the world she ever wants to do.
And it's usually the last thing she does do. What do you bet she'll be sitting next to us at ringside?
If I were you, I wouldn't bet on that.
Help! Help! Millie, what is it?
Oh, Mrs. Norris, I'm just about to die. A man was here. He beat me. Trying to find a doll.
A doll?
What if he should come back?
Calm down now, Millie, and go right home. Take a cab, Millie. I'll pay for it. There was only one man who knew about that doll.
Just closing, madam.
Oh, I'd like to see Mr. Denker.
Well, I'm afraid he's not here. I'm his assistant. My name is Lemaire, Lorenzo Lemaire.
Cut it short, will you? I want to get down to Joe's bar. I want to see the fight.
Do you have a repair job, madam? Would you care to give me the instructions?
Well, no, it was something personal. Is there no way I can see Mr. Denker?
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm afraid he'll be gone a long time.
Why don't you tell the lady? He's gone on vacation.
A vacation?
Florida.
Yes, Florida. He's taking the midnight plane.
That's very odd. He didn't say anything.
He didn't say. You were talking to him here tonight, weren't you?
Yes, you see, he gave me something. Oh, no. Look!
What is it? What did you see?
I'm sorry. It must have been a mouse. I'm sorry to have disturbed you. Good night.
That dame saw no mouse. She smelled a rat. Who is she, anyway?
Sure, I don't know.
We make our getaway tonight. Canada. Have the car ready. Imagine that fool hiding the doll on us.
I wish I had a nice warm coat. It's going to be cold in Canada.
Lieutenant Wigan, please. Homicide squad. Oh, please, operator. I've been trying to get his line for 15 minutes.
From Jim Goebel, the referee.
Lieutenant Wagon's office. Sergeant Murphy speaking.
My favorite, Miss
Oh, hello, Mrs. Knott.
Wise money on
No, the lieutenant just left. He's on his way to meet your husband at the garden.
Oh, dear me, the fight. Well, I'm terribly sorry, but I think I've stumbled across something rather important. However, it's too early to say.
Well, listen, do you want me to have the lieutenant paged at the garden, Mrs. Knott?
Oh, dear me, no. I just ruined Jerry's evening. Why don't you meet him? I'll give you the address.
Oh, me with the fight just about? Okay, okay. I got it. I'll be there, Mrs. Knott.
That crowd roar.
Did you see him land that punch? Hey, you're looking in the wrong direction. You know, if Pam was here, she'd be right up in that ring.
I looked there first.
Come on. Hey, take it easy, Shaky. Come on, get in there. Come on, Yellow, get in.
Now I'll introduce you to the key that opened the box of Pandora. Courtesy of the New York Police Department.
Eerie, isn't it?
Looks more like Syracuse to me. What are we looking for, if I may be so bold as to inquire?
My only thought is that something has happened to that nice Mr. Danker. A man like that deserves the best in life.
Yes, like being able to see a good fight, or at least listen to one.
What is it, Murphy?
Victoric light. Pretty potent acid to have outside of a leaden container. I'll bet the old geezer used this in connection with making composition dolls. Right. Now, look what it does to a sink.
And look what you're doing to the fingerprints on that bottle. What is it, Murphy? What have you found?
Well, if this ain't a corpse, I never saw one.
Oh, tell me, is it a cute little old man with a tiny mustache?
I can't tell you now. Don't come near. I don't want you to see it. Sure, half his face is burned away. And all ready to be shipped. And look where it's going to be shipped, to Fifi Lamar. You can see it right there in the cover.
Fifi Lamar?
Now, don't come near it. I don't want you to see it. It's not a pretty sight.
I want to know who it is.
I'll find out. Always look at the man's hat. And let me see. The initials are L.M. The hat was purchased in Dallas.
Larry Meek. L.M. Luther Mellon. I saw him come in here tonight.
I hope he looked better then than he does now. I get it now. Somebody must have tossed a jolt of Victoricide into his puss.
Well, would that have killed him, Murphy?
Well, it would have blinded him, ma'am, and then someone else could have finished the job some other way.
Well, then he couldn't have been in my apartment.
Not at the same time, darling. Maybe the acid was just an appetizer. Strangling or a knife could have been the main course.
Why, this is awful, Murphy.
Acid, bodies, crates. This is getting too complicated.
Maybe we'd better call Jerry and Lieutenant Wigan at the garden.
I'll take care of that right now.
Why, Mrs. North, I was just phoning your house.
This is Sergeant Murphy of Homicide, Mr. Denker.
A homicide?
Yes, it seems that we have found a body.
Oh, it was inevitable, I suppose. I was beside myself with worry.
Come on, let's have it. Who killed that guy and why?
What are you doing here, Mrs. North?
We'll ask the questions. You just give us the answers. The body in that crate happens to be the body of Larry Meek from Texas. A well-known, notorious criminal.
What about your glasses, Mr. Denker? How are they broken? You had them on when my husband and I were here tonight.
You're most persistent, Mrs. North.
What about Larry Meek? A criminal character. He was here tonight. Where did you know him?
And how about that stiff in the crate?
And why is it being sent to Fifi Lamar?
Oh, that's a matter of sheer coincidence. The crate was being prepared for the shipping of dolls. Mrs. Lamar contemplated disposing them on a trip. A trip that was cancelled a few days ago.
And where was she going?
Texas.
To see Larry Meek?
My dear Mrs. North.
Come on, outward that.
I was just going to say, tonight, Mrs. North, soon after you left my little shop, Luther Mellon, or Larry Meek, as you prefer to call him, entered. His eyes were blazing. He said that Fifi Lamar was his and his alone. That if I didn't tell him where she was, he'd kill me. He lashed out with his pistol. For a moment, things went black. When my head cleared, I looked up and saw Mrs. Lamar with a bottle of acid in her hand. I can't tell you what words they'd exchanged, but I know that Mrs. Lamar threw the acid, even though the fall might have killed Larry Meek. You see, Mrs. North, Meek had conceived a desire for Mrs. Lemur that had become an obsession. That's why her trip to Texas was cancelled. So he came here to take her back by force.
I'll send out a statewide alarm for Mrs. Lemur. You saw her, Mrs. North. How shall I describe her?
You can't use that phone, I fear. It's out of order. Mrs. Lemur saw to that this evening. Horrible. Horrible. To have a thing like that happen in my little dollhouse.
A man was at my apartment tonight, Mr. Denker, looking for a doll. Why?
Mrs. North, how do you expect me to answer that question?
Well, it makes sense to me. Larry Meek entering the shop, a struggle, the phone being out of order.
You gave me that doll. Why? Somebody wanted it badly. Why? You'd better tell us the truth, Mr. Denker.
Mrs. North, would you mind going over to the corner drugstore and calling the medical examiner?
Not at all. I'll bring back some aspirin.
And tell headquarters to put out a statewide search for Mrs. Lemur. Last seen in the village. And you describe her.
The old boy might talk.
What was that?
I'm sure I don't know.
And supposing I find out?
You should write, Mr. Denker.
Right, Mrs. North? Why?
Just thinking of that story that you told Sergeant Murphy and me about the killing of Larry Meek.
It was rather good, wasn't it?
I almost believed it.
You can have the key, darling, for a souvenir.
Think it'll fit anything in Canada? Drag him in here so we can keep an eye on it. What are you doing at that window?
Oh, hello, Mrs. Lemur.
All right, let's get down to business. Where's Bernice?
Bernice?
Where's that doll I gave you tonight?
If it's a customer, get rid of him. And you keep your mouth shut. We're police officers. We've just made an arrest. Hello, police headquarters, please. Captain Dugan, you can send the squad car over. We just made the arrest.
Can we do anything for you, sir?
Well, I saw the lights on, and there's a doll here that interests me.
There's one in which we're interested, too.
It was in the window. I saw it last week. And I said to my wife, now we ought to buy this doll for my little daughter. It was a Swiss peasant doll. My wife is Swiss.
That doll's been sold, sir.
Oh, no, it hasn't. It's in the window.
My sister, she's a little cracked.
Cracked? Well, oh, dear. Oh, you're here all the time, I presume. I mean the business. I'll drop in tomorrow, if it's not too late. I mean for you. I've got to go now. Thank you. Excuse the interruption.
Forget it.
Where am I?
Remember me?
Not that I want to remember. Why the Roscoe?
Take it easy and you'll be all right. Where's the doll?
This one, you mean?
I'll take it if you don't mind. I haven't had a doll like this in a long, long time.
I'll go get a cab.
You'll get nothing. Get away from that door.
What's the matter with you, Fifi?
Nothing that getting away from you won't cure.
Oh, this is a switch?
It's about time, isn't it? You crazy, jealous clown. Always worried about Larry, weren't you? Well, Larry wasn't the only one. Just remember that when I leave you.
You know you don't mean that, honey.
Oh, I don't, eh?
Well, you know you're still Daddy's little lover girl.
You? All right, stand back. Just
just as I thought. It was the doll full of jewels. That's what he came all the way from Texas for.
You, get on the floor and pick up that junk.
Junk, she says.
Put it in there.
Hello, Lieutenant.
Yeah, speaking.
There's something screwy going on in the store down on 6th Street. They want the police.
Who is this?
O'Leary.
O'Leary the cop?
Yes.
What are you calling me for?
Well, I'm off duty tonight.
Will you grab yourself the nearest prowl car and get over to that place or I'll transfer you to Flatbush.
Yes, sir.
In 2 minutes, there's going to be a knock at that door, and you're going to open it. And don't try to pull anything.
Ernie. It's Ernie.
That's right, Ernie. You finally got the message, didn't you? We're leaving together. So what are you going to do about it?
Why, you...
Get over there and sit down. Go on. You, answer the phone. Be very careful what you say.
Hello? It's for you.
Who is it?
It's Ernie. He says he was out front a while ago. He saw something in the window.
Where is he?
Where are you, Ernie?
I'm at the railroad station. And look, tell her I'm on my way to Canada. And alone.
He says he's at the railway station. But he doesn't say which one.
So he took a powder, eh? Well, let him go. I've got what I want. You angel puss. Go and pick up the phone and call me a cab. The number's Gramercy 38099.
I know. Hello, taxi company?
The address is 602 6th Street, and tell him to hurry.
Please send a cab to 602 6th Street, and please hurry. If you don't, a police car will have carried away your passenger.
What did that last crack mean about the police car?
Well, I'm psychic, I guess.
Is that what it is?
Suddenly, it all became clear to me. I know exactly what's going to happen to you.
Come on, quit stalling.
The law of retribution will catch up with you. Not only the law of retribution that is the law, but the law of the underworld. Whoever is involved with those stolen jewels will be looking for you, seeking revenge. Wherever you go, you'll never be safe, whether you go to the ends of the earth. It's your cab, Miss Limmer. Why don't you go to the door?
That's the fastest cab service I've ever had. See this acid, Mrs. North? I'm going to throw this right smack in your face.
Oh, no, Mrs. North. I didn't think she'd do it.
Don't anybody move. I'd just as soon give it to any one of you.
What's the right, lady?
It's all right, Sergeant Murphy. I poured that acid out a while ago. Instinct, Mrs. Lemur. That was nice warm water you threw in my face.
Hello, Mrs. North.
Denny, who won the fight?
According to that tramp won it.
I must be getting home. I've had a wonderfully exciting evening. Good night, all you guys and gals.
Good night, Miss North.
Pam, you don't know what you missed. I mean for thrills and excitement.
I dare say.
You know, you ought to get out more often. You can't afford to let your life grow dull.
I'll make a note of
Oh, what an evening. There were times when my heart was in my throat.
Me too.
Pam, it was murder, just plain murder.
That's right, Bill. Here, Jerry.
And at about round 3, the challenger had figured out the old champ's delivery.
Was that round 3? Gee, my timing must be bad. Jerry, you're wonderful. I'm sure without you I'd be lost.
What do you suppose she meant by that crack?
Mr. and Mrs. North is directed by Ralph Francis Murphy. A John W. Loveton production. Produced by Federal Telefilms. Starring Barbara Britton and Richard Denning, featuring Frances DeSales. This has been a film presentation.